Peace and love, family. Welcome back to the Helping Our People Elevate YouTube channel. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're a returning viewer, as I always say, I appreciate you for helping me build this platform. Thank you for checking the content out. Thank you for being consistent with me. I want to say I appreciate everybody, even you if it's your first time and you're checking the platform out. Thank you for checking me out. If you like this video after you're done watching it, hit that subscribe button. Today we're going to go over the Yamasee indigenous people, or the Yamasee tribe, and we're going to talk about the shifting borders and resistance, the impact of European colonization in the Americas. And so, as I said, I ain't going to hold y'all too long. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're a returner, again, appreciate you. Peace and love, family. Let's jump straight into it.
On behalf of Akuno Senko for Bay, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope. H-O-P-E. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, you know. Every day, one step at a time, man. We gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Yeah. Sometimes I practice focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate and seeking knowledge, make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
And as I always do, family, I like to jump into the etymology, or the origin of the word. And so we're going to jump into the etymology of the word American. So before we even go into the presentation, we're just going to take a quick little deep dive into the 1828 edition of Webster's American Dictionary of the English Language. And this is the unabridged 1828 dictionary. So the Native America originally applied to the Aboriginal or copper-colored peoples found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. And so, I mean, that's real simple. We know who the copper-colored people are. We know the people claiming to be Native today or claiming to be American today. So let's continue. The Yamasee were an indigenous Native American confederation that lived in what is now southeastern United States, particularly along the coast of South Carolina and Georgia. The confederation likely included various smaller tribes and ethnic groups and came together for mutual defense, trade, and survival in response to European colonization and the pressures of neighboring tribes. The Yamasee were primarily Muskogee-speaking people, but also incorporated other linguistics and cultural groups. The Yamasee were joined by other tribes, including the Creek, Catawba, and the Appalachee, reflecting the broad coalition against the British. This alliance demonstrated indigenous nations' ability to unite against common threats despite historical rivalries. Colonial response. Initially caught off guard, British colonists eventually rallied, relying on reinforcements from the north and alliances with other tribes like the Cherokee, who opposed the Yamasee coalition. Outcomes for the Yamasee after this defeat: the Yamasee faced displacement and fragmentation. Many fled to Spanish Florida, contributing to the formation of the groups like the Seminoles. Others joined the Creek Confederacy or were absorbed into tribes like the Cherokee and Choctaw. Some became refugees, navigating a precarious existence in a colonial landscape increasingly dominated by European powers. The origins and compositions of the Yamasee. The Ghoul, originally from Georgia coast, these people joined the Yamasee after Spanish missions disrupted their societies. Makoma, another coastal tribe associated with the Tamuian-speaking groups, many of whom were absorbed into the Yamasee. Appalachee, a Muskogee-speaking group from the Florida Panhandle, some of whom allied with or became part of the Yamasee. Refugee tribes. Smaller groups from the surrounding regions joined the Yamasee for protection, often after being displaced by European expansion or conflicts. The Yamasee's diverse makeup made them adaptable and resilient, but also vulnerable to eternal division. Their relations with Europeans. The Spanish contact. The Yamasee were initially allied with Spanish colonists in Florida, engaging in trade and participating in the Spanish mission system. Over time, however, their relationship with the Spanish deteriorated due to forced labor, disease, and cultural imposition. British alliance. In the late 17th century, the Yamasee moved north into present-day South Carolina, aligning with British colonists. They became important trading partners, supplying deer hides and enslaved indigenous people. Conflict with the British. The Yamasee's relationship with the British soured due to the unfair trade practices, mounting debt, and the enslavement of their people. This led to the Yamasee Wars against the South Carolina colonists. The Yamasee War is one of the most significant conflicts between indigenous people and the European conflicts in the colonial Southeast. The Yamasee, along with allies like the Creek and Catawba, attack British settlements initially successful. They were initially defeated due to the disorganization among their allies and the colonists' reinforcements. After their defeat, many Yamasee fled to Spanish Florida, where they joined or were absorbed by other groups such as the Seminoles. Others dispersed among the Creek Confederacy or became refugees in various parts of the Southeast. Some remnants assimilated into other tribes such as the Cherokee and Choctaw. Now we'll talk about why the Yamasee no longer exist. One was the war and violence. The Yamasee War decimated their population and undermined their political structure. Two, displacement and assimilation. Survivors scattered and were absorbed into other tribes or colonial societies. Three, colonial policies. European colonization disrupted their social and economic systems, leading to fragmentation. Four, enslavement. Many Yamasee were enslaved and transported to other colonies or the Caribbean. By the late 18th century, the Yamasee had ceased to exist as a recognizable, unified tribe, although their descendants lived on within other Native American communities. And a lot of us think that we came from slave ships from Africa. Well, that's the story that's told. Let me say that. That's the story that's taught in the school systems. But the facts are facts. This ain't no belief. This ain't me being propaganda or whatever the word that people want to say. This is the fact. America applied to the copper-colored people found by the Europeans. And this is what happened to those people. And it's just talking about the Yamasee were enslaved. So, I mean, come on now. They just don't tell you. The American Indian Wars. Come on now. Just do the history. If you haven't, I got a video on that on her. Y'all see, I put a lot of this information on her. So, again, I appreciate y'all. If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button. If you're new, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button. But let's continue. The legacy of the Yamasee. The Yamasee story reflects the broader experience of indigenous peoples in their southeast during the colonization. While the name Yamasee is no longer associated with a specific tribe, their legacy persists in the cultural practices, histories, and genealogies of the southeastern Native American groups. Some descendants may also identify as part of mixed heritage communities today. The Yamasee War of 1715 to 1717 was fought primarily between the Yamasee and their allies on one side, and the British settlers in South Carolina and their native allies on the other. Reasons for the war. We've already gone into it, but we're going to just go a little bit deeper into it. Why? Exploitation by British settlers. The Yamasee and other tribes were deeply unhappy with the British traders who cheated them in trade and saddled them with debt. Many native people, including Yamasee, were forced into enslavement when they couldn't pay debts. Encroachment on Yamasee land by British settlers created tensions. The settlers were taking more territory, threatening native sovereignty. Violence and abuses. British traders frequently mistreated native people, including physical abuse and exploitation. Strategic alliance breakdown. The Yamasee had been allies of the British during earlier conflicts, but grew increasingly dissatisfied as they saw their power and autonomy eroding. Who fought with the Yamasee? The province of South Carolina, led by Governor Charles Craven, organized colonial militias to fight the Yamasee. The settlers also relied heavily on native allies, particularly the Cherokee, the Catawba, and Creek, to fight against the Yamasee. We had our own internal conflict before the colonists came. Once they came, they saw that and they took advantage of that. And so, it's like I read, at one point, the Yamasee and the British were quote unquote allies. And then this is what happens. Start taking the land, forcing them into debt. Same thing we go through today. That's why we paying bills, working for them today. Same thing. You got your name from an Englishman. You speak the Englishman's language. But that's a whole nother subject. We're going to continue. Who allied with the Yamasee, as I was going into? The Yamasee formed a coalition of several other tribes, including the Creek, the Appalachee, the Catawba, the Kangare, Waxhaw, Kasabo. I may be saying those wrong, but they had 6 allied groups. I could be wrong as far as how I pronounce the name, but it was the Yamasee, and there were 6 tribes within this society. The outcome of the war. The war was devastating for the Yamasee. After suffering significant losses, they fled their homeland. Many sought refuge with Spanish in Florida, joining the Seminole or Appalachee. Others scattered to join other tribes or were killed. South Carolina survived the war, but exposed how fragile the colony was and forced the British to change their practices with native allies to avoid future conflicts. On that note, if you made it this far, this wasn't going to be no long video, just something short for the month. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Family, peace, and love. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.